Well, just in the last few days, Olathe lost one of its school board members, Brian Connell, announcing that he is resigned effective January 7th of 2024 from his position on the Olathe school board. It came as a surprise to many, as I understand it, but Brian Connell's joining us on KCMO, and Brian got elected back in 2021 when there was a push against those who wanted to keep kids out of the classroom during COVID, and when there was a push against those who wanted to mask kids in the classrooms during COVID. So Brian came in during that wave, and now he is resigning effective less than a month from now. Brian, good morning. Thanks for being on KCMO. Why resign?
Well, good morning, Pete. Thanks for having me in this morning. Well, to be very honest, the last couple of years have been like standing in the middle of a busy intersection with buses coming all directions and getting hit over and over. And at a certain point in time, in order to survive, you got to get out of the middle of the intersection. So,
what in particular? I mean, we all understand the analogy, but what in particular? I mean, obviously, for people that don't know, you were censured by the school board back in May after you had responded to some of your fellow members on the Olathe school board about things you disagreed with. But what in particular? What made you say, you know what, I'm done, I'm stepping away, this is it for me?
Well, to be really honest, just about everything. But Thursday, I mentor a sixth grade boy who had lost his parents in our school district. And I was sitting there talking to him, and I heard my words as I was leaving, I realized I'm giving him the same advice I should be giving myself about making better choices, about who you hang out with, about not letting others pull you mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, financially into a pit. Being able to know when to walk away. And as I walked away, I literally did go to my car and I wrote my resignation speech at that point in time, and that was a scathing names tell all. And I set it aside, and an hour later I wrote what was supposed to be my resignation if things did not go fully the way it should be. And I ended up leaving that actual speech back at home. But the reality is sometimes good people run for office to do what's right, to not just legal, but what's right. And I wasn't honestly prepared, neither was a lot of people, for the political crazies. I wasn't prepared for the integrity impaired board members, the members of the community who went after my daughter, my son, my house, my family, that didn't understand that there's a difference between individual people and the actions, inactions, and words that they take. So the censure was just one of many things along the way, but the integrity impairment of the system that is fundamentally damaged is something I'm not going to be able to fix from the inside.
What happened, to whether it was the stories about your daughter, your home? I mean, what happened and who was behind it?
Well, I won't name which state senator in Kansas, but it won't be hard to figure out, unleashed her own child on my kid at school to try and find stuff purposely. And I found out because my kid was in college. She's getting texts that someone's coming after her and after me. We had someone out there, and I will first admit that I said in the board meeting, do I think, because I do not know for sure, that those other 6 board members or 5 board members and they're individually said, hey, go do these things? Probably not. But they never, ever had the moral authority to stand up and say, stop. Someone slaughtered a coyote and threw the bloody carcass on my son's car. This is politics gone crazy, and I think it's got to stop.
A dead coyote ended up on your son's car?
Yes, sir.
And you're very confident that that is tied to someone who is upset or was upset with you and your stances on the school board in Olathe?
I can't say that it is or it isn't. The timing of it when it happened was too coincidental. So is it 100% tied? I cannot and won't say that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it didn't happen before, and it only happened within weeks of, the elections. But with that said is, and that people stole 300 of my signs during the elections, and not one person could say stop.
Mm-hmm.
And during the last election, so there's no legal right for the board to censure. There is no politics there, and their censure was to cover up their failures of board member breaking board policies, board directors, board leaders, over and over and over. The ethics policy was being replaced by board members who the president illegally, or against board policy, created a committee. He couldn't do that. They were changing an ethics policy without the rest of the board involved, breaking board policy. And then they claimed the moral high ground when I caught them doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you.
That was frustrating.
Brian Connell is joining us, a former Olathe school board member, resigned late last week. You were set to be back on committees as of 2024, so next year. What do you say to folks who said, hey, Brian, we voted for you. We wanted you on the school board to push back against some of this stuff, and you basically quit on us in the middle of the job. How would you explain to those folks who are upset potentially that, you basically quit on them in the middle of this term?
I've asked that question to myself for the last 6 months that I hadn't quit yet. So it's a fair question, right? What I'd share was that I am grateful for their support. I'm grateful that they voted. But when less than 12 to 13 people ever showed up at board meetings to stand in the breach with me, that's not what elected officials are supposed to do, be the only ones doing the right thing all the time. This is a community structure. Public schools are a community structure. They take the community. And to vote every 2 years all by itself is fine. It isn't enough. And, when the district makes decisions, the community is affected. The kids, the students, the parents, the taxpayers. So everybody needs to stand in the breach.
Brian, we appreciate you coming on. And basically what happens now? Your seat just stays open until the 2025 election, or do they get to pick a replacement?
They will pick a replacement that probably reflects the majority of the board, which is missing a lot of integrity. So they will start the process in January, probably have someone selected that fits. Again, the board votes for who they want. They do a selection, not an election. And then that seat will come up for election in late 25.
So it's fair to say they're going to replace you with somebody who probably views the world the complete opposite as you.
That would be my expectation based on how it's worked the last few years. And so whether the votes were 5-2, Rowdy Kuhn is a good man, or 6-1, the board is going to do what they're going to do, not in support of the kids, not in support of the teachers, not in support of what the community really thinks it sounds like.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of really good teachers. There are a lot of good staff. There are a lot of good people, but they're all fearful of poking their head up and getting it chopped off by a system that is damaged and flawed.
What is, just in the last minute, what is the biggest issue as you see it in the Olathe school system right now?
Lack of moral authority and integrity and leadership, from the board of the last 8 years to current to district leadership. I mean, they're opening a Satan's club in the high school. Mm-hmm. And instead of informing the board ahead of time so that we could talk about this, the fear of legal retribution versus doing what's right and wrong is come on, people. The district told everybody that we're broke again, but they hid it 2 weeks ago in an unrecorded forum, and then stashed the documents on board docs where most people can't find it. We laid off 288 people in 22 because the district was fully aware that they were broke, and they didn't own it. They canceled a virtual school. They laid off staff. They had a bond election without telling people that they were broke. Mm-hmm. This is what's wrong with our structures: is own it, go to the people and say, look, we made a mistake. Plus, you're probably familiar that they're running up over $500,000 in bills defending a lawsuit from a lady in our community, when all they had to do was take 30 seconds, breathe, say, "Hey, lady, go finish your 2 minutes." Instead, lack of moral integrity. So.
Hey, Brian, thank you for being here. We appreciate the time, and we'll be following along in what's happening there in Olathe. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Pete. Have a great day.
All right, you as well. That is Brian Connell on KCMO Talk Radio.